What's going on, everybody? This is the Hobert bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll be taking a look over here at the Bitcoin price chart as the price sits here at $63,900. As I record this morning, XRP sits at $1.17 with the total market cap of the cryptocurrency market sitting at $2.18 trillion, as prices have been stagnant for about 2 weeks now, coming off of the big liquidations that took place back there at the beginning part of June. Remember, we were looking for those $2 to $5 billion liquidations. We did end up getting them clear as day in here. Now, the market has sat kind of stagnant in here, waiting for further direction. One thing I've talked about a lot these last couple of weeks is that we've finally gotten those on-chain losses to hit that 10.5 million coins in a loss. So as you can see here, this is the bottom of the 2018 bear. This is over here after the C19 collapse that happens over there on the right side of the screen. You can see how much the on-chain losses have gotten to. Then, of course, over here after FTX, I posted that over here on X, or even questions in there, tagging Grok, asking Grok, is this real? As if everything I've said for the last year has been ignored. But yes, this is real. We'll talk about this again. We'll look at Bitcoin through this scope, and we'll talk about it on a bigger time frame here, relating over there to the stock market and how corrections can look in here for Bitcoin and how you can round out these bottoms and then just eventually get our way out of here. Now, what I've talked about in videos this week, talked about markets in the morning, typically, right? These bottoms, they take anywhere from 2 to 4 months to be able to work their way out and get out of here. We're at about 2 weeks right now. I certainly would love for it to go faster, or, I don't know how long it's going to take, but we have a ballpark idea of how long it takes for these things to pull out. Anywhere between 2 and 4 months once we hit those 10.5 million coins being in a loss. With C19, it didn't even take that long, which, yes, we hit the 10.5 million in a loss there during C19. But really, it's kind of a waiting game in here right now until this thing can morph itself, determine if it's going to sweep this low one more time down in here for Bitcoin, and then try to work its way out. And that would be very normal, typical behavior. We're just waiting for some type of reaction to come out of this thing. And it's going to be kind of a twiddling our thumbs event until we get there. I've got daily auto accumulations on of 1% per day. For those who've been watching a lot, you know what that means. But for people who haven't been watching a lot, they probably don't understand what that means. Back in September and in October, I made big exits from the market in here publicly. Then as the February 5th capitulation came in, I entered 25% of my cash back in, then did 25% auto accumulations. Now I'm doing 1% daily auto accumulations ever since June 2nd or June 3rd, which means that 25% plus 25%, putting me at 50, then 51, 52, 53, 54, and so on. Until now, I'm at about 65% of my cash being in the market, 66%. So every single day, I'm adding 1% back, accumulating this area. Why am I doing it at 1% per day? Because typically we take about 2 months for this thing to round out. 1%, 50% remaining. That's 50 days. It's almost 2 months, right? Because what we don't know is if it'll be something kind of like this where it does sweep that low again. Another time for that, it'll just give me kind of an average price of whatever we end up doing down here at these lows. Now we've spent a lot of time showing IG versus the Dow, showing these correction structures down in here, right? We saw insane volume showing up in here. People were very panicked about AI, and that SaaS companies wouldn't be able to do anything. Totally didn't fall for it. Expected that this is a typical correction, that it would likely sweep this low in here and then be able to reverse its way back out, which it did. Again, that discussion of Bitcoin in here. And if it's going to sweep that low down in there, well, that would just simply be the same concept, the same idea. that what we've seen happen for Bitcoin has really been this, right? Shooting our way back down to the low if there's still another sweep, and then a reversal out of there. Possible. Don't know how probable it is. Not placing all my marbles on it, going at a rate of 1% per day, because all of these bottoms can look different in here, like we saw back in 2018, 2020, and in 2022. The thing that I do know about all three of those past time periods is that if you had just thrown money at it blindly during those times, would you have been okay for the years following that? Yes. Will that be true? This time, we don't know. However, did the guy who bought it at $3,200 complain versus the guy who bought it at $3,600 the years afterwards? Now, so that's my logic. Now, of course, just throwing the money blindly at the on-chain losses would be one thing, but it's the confluence of the other factors that are happening at the same time that this is really exactly what our last bear market looked like. And this is how we met the floor here after FTX collapsed. We've essentially done precisely the exact same thing. And over here on the weekly time frame, we can throw on that 300-week moving average. We could see we went to the exact same spot as we have with both our fractals, our price behaviors, our corrections, and now our on-chain metrics getting back to the same technical location while also reaching the same technical oversold. Conditions on the relative strength index having our capitulation period show up back here when our MAC had collapsed back there in late December on the weekly time frame, and then over here on the 2-week time frame, that by the time this had happened, we were beyond capitulation, which you can see here in 2018, here in 2022, and here in 2025 and 2026. That by the time this collapsed, we were already beyond the capitulation phase. This is just some of that bottoming structural behavior happening in here without this market really going much lower, if any, than it had in the past, at least back in February. I showed this earlier in the week that others, the altcoin market, excluding the top 10, didn't even take out the February low. So we mix in price structure behavior in here for capitulations and bottoming. We mix in technical oversold conditions. After a technical MACD, the 2-week time frame collapse, along with reaching down near the 300-week moving average. And then we stack this on top at the exact same time. Obviously, for me, this is going to be accumulation. I would have to find a different argument to present somehow to say this time is different. And it's hard to do that when the only element different is the Russell 2000 breaking average out versus what happened back in 2022 and 2023 where it was beaten down. And so our only real element different is that we have stocks rampaging, which is historically a positive sign for the crypto market. So you stack on roaring stock market on chain, losses reached, moving averages reached, oversold conditions reached. Oversold conditions reached on even larger time frames like the 2-week, along with the MACD collapse, already occurring post-capitulation. It's just the accumulation level. The thing we're just stuck in is how long this will take, and if it will behave similarly to this type of ending where it has to wick this one last time to finish it. We'll see, but we'll have to play the patience game. The best thing I can do for you now is try to provide you that pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance. Obviously, from September all the way through February, that was the hard thing to do. And it felt weird to come onto the channel and finish every video by saying that. But I always knew we would get into like the depths of despair and be able to be that guy once again and be able to be that guy without just being a cheerleader or trying to gaslight it in some way. I always try to back everything up with data and present it to you that way. You can obviously make your own decisions to determine whether or not this matters. If doing a completed correction of the size of our past bear market matters, you can decide if getting to the 300-week moving average matters. you can decide if reaching on-chain losses matters. And those are all data points that I'm providing to you to let you decide whether or not you think they matter or not. But what they all show me is a series of confluence that we reach the exact on-chain loss milestone while reaching the exact same structural size of behavior of our past bear market to get to those on-chain losses, which happen right here at the 300-week moving average in these oversold conditions. It looks good. It just typically takes a little bit of time. It's just that this is typically where people do emotionally break in a market. And I know that because I've been through 3 bear markets in the cryptocurrency market. I went through the entire 2018 bear market, 2022, 2023 bear market. And of course, I've been here through this one. My most recent newsletter really focuses on how we're really seeing all those technical and on-chain signals of what we typically see at the bottoms, and then also analyzing the altcoins that have maintained a bid. However, my last newsletter that was published there at the end of May really focuses on being on the right side emotionally during this type of period, because I do have my own emotional logs from back in 2018. And I remember what it was like going through 2022. I remember what the sleepless nights felt like, the doubt. I know what that feels like in these types of environments when we have these types of on-chain losses and we have these types of oversold conditions in a market where people did not think we were going into a bear market. And by the time we get there, it's kind of too late. And so I do know how people feel in this type of environment. It typically doesn't feel good. But I'm here to tell you, it feels like that at the bottom of everything, every bear market. It feels like that every single time on-chain losses get hit. And anybody who is here in 2018, 2020, or 2022, can reflect on what this moment felt like right here when on-chain losses hit 10.5. Or those who were here during C19 when on-chain losses hit 10.5 over here. During the FTX collapse, when on-chain losses hit 10.5, none of those moments felt good. So I assume that's how people feel right now, for the most part. A lot of you don't because you paid attention to the data, but most people do. And so I want you to know that's a normal feeling to have right here. And this is parts of markets. We go through extreme euphoria, extreme excitement. And then when we get to periods like this, it's typically pretty rough out there. But history has shown these are typically the moments of maximum opportunity. So we'll see. So if you want to check out the data, really highlighting how we've hit all of these losses, how the sentiment and narratives all align with what bottoms feel like. Again, sentiment, you can check out the most recent newsletter over here at blockchainbacker.substack.com. And that one that I posted at the end of May really focuses there on the emotions too. And I actually read excerpts from my emotional log from November, December, January, and February of 2018 and 19. If you want to know what it felt like, you can probably relate to it now. But either way, this one's very data packed. It's got a 43-minute audio recording that I just posted this past weekend, available over here at blockchainbacker.substack.com. There's a link down here in the description of this video to the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com, or you can go directly within your browser. Otherwise, guys, I'll be off for the next several days. I'll catch you guys later next week. Keep an eye over there on X. I'll be posting things over there. In the meantime, have an absolutely wonderful weekend. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor.